Hi, welcome back. Happy Thanksgiving. This is only the second time that we've recorded a video here together during a holiday. And it's been a while since my last one on the 4th of July, although it seems like it just happened not that long ago. I'm taking a break from my Turkey Day Marathon in order to record this, so I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. Let's pull up my notes here and see what we're talking about today. Oh, yeah, right. Funny Picture Stories. At the beginning of 1937, Funny Picture Stories, published by Comics Magazine, is looking really good. The first issue of the year, number 4, is also, in my opinion, the zenith of the 21-issue run of Funny Picture Stories. It's not a perfect anthology issue. It's got a share of bad filler, but the first 3 features are really solid. So much so that we're going to take a deep dive into analyzing them. The very first story is the very first published American comic book artwork by Will Eisner. Will Eisner, you may recall, may or may not have written the early installments of the Sapphire Eye of Sekhmet adventure featured in Funny Pages. The jury is still out on that. He's also had his artwork published in the British magazine Wow, What a Magazine for the past 6 months. But this feature is the first time that we're seeing his artwork here in the States. This feature is the first and only appearance of the Brothers 3. Even though you've never seen them before, you sort of have. This is the Gunga Din genre, always characterized by 3 soldiers of fortune who are all buddies and have the kind of chemistry together that Cary Grant, Victor McLaglen, I think that's how they pronounce that, and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. had. The thing is, this predates the movie Gunga Din by 2 years. It's possible that there was already this formula in Pulp Fiction, though I'm not aware of other specific precedents, and it's also possible that Eisner invents the genre with this very story. Like Gunga Din, the story is troubling in how it treats non-Americans, with Arabs serving the role of villains instead of people from India. The nationality of the Brothers 3 is interesting. The leader is, naturally, an American. The comic relief is English. The third brother is German. The comic relief being English might be why this isn't in Wow, What a Magazine. The third character being German might seem surprising, but newspaper strip character Scorchy Smith already had a German sidekick, so there is precedent. There are traces of artistic genius here, but Will Eisner is not that genius yet, and the art looks crude in multiple spots. It's still a pretty good adventure yarn with an exciting climax. The next story is the debut of Rocky Baird, another soldier of fortune character, one who appeared in a whopping 3 stories. Interestingly, it's not Rocky Baird who appears on the first page. It's a dead ringer for Captain Easy, just with a mustache. This time, the villains are Indians, so the American hero Rocky can shoot them with impunity. The Captain Easy Ringer is Lieutenant Stoneleigh of the British Army, and it's not clear if he's here as a tribute to the author's favorite character, or if the author is throwing down the gauntlet to Roy Crane and saying that Rocky Baird would be alpha male over Captain Easy. Not sure. Now the author is Paul, short for Paulino Lauretta, the son of Italian immigrants who grew up in Massachusetts and is now only 20 years old, one of the youngest people in comic books. Paul seems to be a bit of a prodigy. He appears to have had no art education outside of public school. According to the Klein Letters blog, linked to the comment section below, this wasn't even Paul's first time getting Rocky Baird published. For the past 2 years, his hometown newspaper had been publishing Rocky Baird as a comic strip, though set in the South Seas instead of India. Now, I enjoyed all 3 Rocky Baird stories I've read. The art is like a crude, cartoony version of Roy Crane's Captain Easy. Curiously, the third and final one appears to be part of yet another continuity, a third one for the character. None of the stories occur in consecutive issues, and after them, Paul disappears from comic books for a little while, until he starts helping on Superman. But we're still 1.5 years from Superman, so more on that much later. I've talked before about Joe Buresch, my second favorite of the artists after John Patterson, who left National Allied for Comics Magazine. Joe's cartoony style often fits comic stories better, but he tried his hand at several serious adventure stories too, and my favorite of them was this one, The Swamp Rat. There is a villain here, but it's really more of a man versus nature story with quicksand being the real threat. Plus, there's a nice bit of a mystery to it between the girl who appears and disappears and what her connection to the villain is. All three of these stories have been reprinted by me in my own books. Not all of the content was good or even passable. Tony Basso, for example, was an amateur artist, extremely crude, but he must have been good at deadlines or something because he kept getting published by Comics Magazine. I don't have access to issue number 5. I'm not sure anyone does, and I have nothing to recommend from issue 6. George Brenner, feeling ambitious after his success with The Clock, tries out a Flash Gordon clone with a twist. Bob Steele isn't just an athlete, but a medical doctor. In someone else's hands, this intriguing premise might have gone somewhere, but instead we get something quite forgettable. Eugene Koskik's first story for Comics Magazine appears in number 7. Though this is my first time mentioning him, Eugene worked for National all the way back from the beginning, the first issue of New Fun. He was not prolific. He had a total of 7 pages published by National. Comics Magazine must have thought landing him was a big coup for them. He doubled his contribution to comics with a 7-page story here, and his last one in comic books, period. The story would be utterly forgettable if the assistant, Ichabod, was not dressed to look exactly like a human version of Goofy. And that was the last issue of Funny Picture Stories under Comics Magazine. I told you what happened to Comics Magazine and how Ultim bought it out last episode. This title takes a 2-month break while it retools under the new management. When it comes back, it sports a cartoony cover by the new guy, Charles Biro, and the interior stories are all really bad and really amateurish. It's unknown how much, if any, of the book was being provided by the Chesler studio before, but this is a Chesler product now through and through. And this is what Chesler thought would sell better, something both more aimed at kids and yet more overtly racist at the same time. The best of the new amateurs to frequently appear in Funny Picture Stories was Frank Frollo. Frank was 22, had some art training, though you wouldn't know it sometimes, and will work for multiple studios to the 1940s and still work in comic books into the 1950s, though languishing at low-paying Charlton Comics by then. Here, back in 1937, even though Frank seems determined to draw the human body out of proportion as much as possible, he's not half bad at storytelling. And his best work is the ongoing feature Jack Strand. Jack himself isn't that interesting, but he has engaging adventures dealing with mermen and before that, Psyche. Psyche is a goofy name for a villain, and he looks at least as goofy as his name, but he's a strong contender for the very first supervillain in comic books. He comes from the 4th dimension, which is defined as the realm of the subconscious. Being a native of the 4th dimension gives him special powers in the 3-dimensional world. He can control minds, and he can even somehow keep dead people alive in a sort of zombie-like state. He has a lair, minions, a costume, a diabolical plan, almost all the tropes of the supervillain. It's harder to make a case that Jack Strand is a superhero, though. He sort of has a power, but it's specific to just one villain, Psyche, and it's a magic gem that just protects him from Psyche's powers. And unless you have a magic gem that protects you from me, you'll be seeing me again soon when we discuss Ultim's first brand new title, Star Comics. Expect it to be bad. In the meanwhile, please like and subscribe to this channel and consider supporting this channel on Patreon. Check for links in the comment section below, and I'm going to get back to watching my marathon. Bye for now.